Welcome to Reflections, a program where we discuss values and virtues for the transformation of the individual and the society at large. I am Father George Ehusani, and today I'll call it even a special edition because I have my great friend with me. Nurudeen Lemu is in the studio. You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
Nurudeen Lemu, we all know, is very active on the national scene now, especially after the last national conference where he made an epic speech about tolerance and acceptance, and especially across religions and regions in this country, how our religions are supposed to even make us come together better rather than divide us. That speech he made at the national conference of 2014 has continued to reverberate, and I keep hearing it on radio and on TV from time to time. Now, Nurudeen, we are at a crossroad once again. I would say that we are to discuss once again Nigeria at a crossroad. Nurudeen Lemu and I convened the Interfaith Activity and Partnership for Peace, IFAP, that ran a number of discussions like this on AIT in 2012, or is it 2013? 2012 to 2013, we ran a number of editions discussing how our different faiths, Christianity and Islam, can be mobilized to bring peace to our country, and how actually the core of our faiths is compassion and not violence by any means. I am happy to have Nurudeen in the studio, but unfortunately this time we are in trouble again as a country. In 2012 we were in trouble, and we had to come together to pool resources to educate our people. Now we need to educate our people once again. Not long ago on social media we saw a warning from a Sierra Leonean, Umar Bangura, a Sierra Leonean who lives in the US, sent this, I would say, very powerful warning to Nigerians. And I'll read it once again. I don't think you guys, meaning Nigerians, I don't think you guys know what you are playing with. You call each other names and laugh about it. But when you end up inciting hate here, as I read through your posts, and a real civil war starts in your country, you will regret what you are doing now. Your religious and political leaders are trying to divide you between religious lines, and you are helping them to do that rather than standing up and say, we are all Nigerians, never mind our tribe, religion or region. That's the only stand that will save your blessed nation. The foreign powers pushing the government to take certain decisions will abandon you when you start killing one another, and they will reject you from running to their countries. So be careful. Our 11-year war in Sierra Leone was not even based on religious or tribal difference. And see what we did to our country. The worst conflicts are those based on tribal and religious differences. See Central Africa, see Bosnia, see South Africa, see South Sudan and Rwanda. To have a better knowledge of this, please watch the documentary movie called Hotel Rwanda, or sometime in April. My heart bleeds when I read what you guys are saying, because I know what this will lead to. You will be the losers, all of you, whether Christian or Muslim or Igbo or Yoruba or Hausa. Stand as one and save your nation together, because you have only one Nigeria that has the potential to lead Africa. Omar Bangura, a Sierra Leonean, is warning us. Nuru, what's going on? I was out of the country when I began to hear that some group, Biafra, say that they should be sit at home, declare public holiday to mark Biafra, and then some group from the north, Arewa youth, fix a date for eviction of Igbos from the north. What's going on here? And is there a real threat?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, in the name of God, the most gracious, the most merciful. I think we, as you mentioned rightly, are at a crossroad. We are a nation that has different segments and parts with various grievances. And some, whether real or perceived, have not been adequately addressed. One confab after the next, proposals after proposals, whatever the final conclusion is, there seems to be the belief that you will always have some people who are not satisfied, which in a sense would always be a reality. The problem, I think, with a state that has certain weaknesses is when you tolerate hate speech, it gradually becomes hate speech that leads to atrocities, that leads to violence. And after a while, it's easy for people to just say, whoever is talking, somebody will put them in check. And we're used to all sorts of jokes and different types of tribalistic insults towards each other. But I feel it reached a stage where some members felt enough is enough. If you can make that kind of hate speech and the government will not stop it, we too can make similar statements. And I honestly do not feel or believe that some of those who made some of these statements had thoroughly thought through the consequences and the implications of where that type of hate speech would lead to.
On both sides?
On both sides. I honestly feel some was just a bravado, if you can say, we can say also. Yeah, all of you go.
Exuberant, so to say.
I honestly don't believe anyone here or in the northern part of the country, or those who are supporting this even in some parts of the eastern part of the country, actually wanted this thing to lead to a situation of war, genocide, based on tribalism mixed with religion. I think there was this feeling that it's noisemakers and it's just a side issue. Unfortunately, as things started to unfold, certain non-state actors, through social media in particular, became more popular, started to wield more influence, and what was initially a fringe concern
started coming to the center. It has become a more mainstream concern, and I think we are at a crossroad, if I use your language there, where how we handle things from now would determine the scenario, the consequences,
and the consequences that will unfold. And if we decide to allow free fall, let things happen on their own, we may see what Edmund Burke, I think, once said, that the only condition necessary for the triumph of evil is that good people do nothing. And I think that sitting back and watching extreme voices exchange language, and that apathy to it or disregard is probably the most dangerous thing we can do. You come from Mina, Nupe, and so you are part of those identified as Arewa. Are you worried seriously about this recent, exuberant, I would say, if irresponsible statement from the Arewa youth giving a date for the Igbos to leave the north? Are you really worried? I am terrified, to be honest. And it didn't hit me sufficiently until with some of our networks of Islamic organizations, I was discussing with some of them the need to start getting Muslim scholars to become critical and to start criticizing during this month of Ramadan any tribal sentiments that are going to push this path. It's clear if you're going to say Igbos should leave, you are saying innocent citizens of Nigeria should leave. You are saying they should evacuate. And who are you to deny somebody citizenship and right of abode and right of residence? And who is going to do the evacuation? So there was that concern. So we tried to get more and more Muslim scholars to, start talking. It is when I was speaking to one of my colleagues and he said, this is going to be difficult. And I said, why? He said, because things are getting too hot. I said, they are getting too hot for us as Muslims to criticize tribalism? He said, yes. I said, then if we don't put that fire out, who will?
And if we don't put it out now?
And if we don't put it out now?
When shall we?
When? Is the fire going to get any smaller? Are we waiting for things to come down? Or are we actually late? And that's when I actually realized
that perhaps we are late.
We probably have crossed the Rubicon. We probably, and I pray and I honestly believe
that we can find a way of stepping back.
That we've not gone beyond the line of no return. That we are not at a speed that the brakes cannot stop this movement. So in answer to your question, I am very, very worried, especially when, in line with what Umar Bangura mentioned, that they have seen it in their own country unfold. And every other country where you've had problems that started with this kind of hate speech and rhetoric never ended well. There was no win-lose. There was just who's a bigger loser and who's a smaller loser. But the moment you say people are going to die, this is big loss. So there are definitely concerns.
In the month of May, I read a fairly voluminous book on Rwanda before the genocide. I mean, it's as if I was preparing for this. I didn't know this was coming up. But I read about Rwanda before the genocide. And the violence that took place in 1959, in 1961, 1962, in 1971. Now, a lot of people who know about the Rwandan genocide didn't know that there were these petty genocides, if you may put it, that happened before the 1994 genocide. Once ethnic sentiments have been brought in and the flame is being fanned, it doesn't end well. Never anywhere, whether it is in Bosnia or in Rwanda or anywhere, it does not end well. How you indicated just now that the people who made some of these statements may not have thought through possible consequences. Now, these may be irresponsible young people here and there, but what about leaders? We did hear that there are some national figures in the East who celebrated the champion of Biafra, and some national figures in the North who said yes, it is time to put them in their place. That for me is very scandalous, because like you said, you can ignore, these are irresponsible young people who never experienced the civil war. They don't know the bitter pill that war is. But when you see somebody who is supposed to be a national icon and you hear him make statements that is frightening.
Oh yeah. I think as I said earlier, I honestly believe those who made this statement from the Arewa youth,
yes,
probably felt this was a good thing to do. It would check. And since the government seems to have no problem with hate speech, let's increase the fire, and probably they will come out to act and tell everybody to. I honestly felt it wasn't beyond that. But I think, studying what's going on in other parts of the world, it starts becoming more worrisome when leaders start getting involved. When political leaders start joining in, it gives endorsement. And so one side starts looking at it as, this is not just some fringe group. No, this is becoming mainstream. When people in the media start lending support, you start getting worried. When traditional leaders start giving support, you start getting more worried. When religious leaders who you would have thought would be the custodians of the best part of our humanity, of fairness, of compassion, of consideration.
When they start getting partisan in this,
And
then you start losing hope.
Precisely. Now, if all that energy was going to be towards lobbying the government and pushing people to come and sit at a table,
Yes.
to negotiate the core issues that are at the heart of the various grievances, whether they have to do with derivation formula and resource control and the kind of federalism or system of democracy or how we share power from one level to another level, if that was where the energy was pushing government towards and people towards, and everybody is making the government become more responsible, then I think it would be good.
Yeah.
When, however, it is bringing unknown voices and giving them new power,
New relevance.
and weakening the state to the extent where people are listening to non-state players and actors and less to the state, that the state is now begging people to come and calm down, that people actually start, not consciously, but unconsciously changing their alliances.
Shifting alliance to these non-state actors.
And to start feeling that the federal government doesn't represent us. Then it becomes a really major source of concern if people within the Senate, people that are governors, really top people, start becoming sentimental and seem not to be very clear regarding it's really disturbing.
It's disturbing. I mean, governments exist principally to protect lives and properties of its citizens. Number one assignment of government. Building bridges and roads is secondary. It is to protect the lives and properties. So, let's say I was born in Kaduna, I was born in Kano, I was born in Enugu. My ancestors don't have to be from there. In modern democracies, I am born in Enugu, I'm born in Calabar or Kano, I am a citizen of this place with all the rights and privileges and obligations. Now, if some idiot gets up and says, well, I'm giving you a date because your ancestors come from this other part of the country, I am giving you a date to leave. Well, you said that they never thought it true, because it's like, who are you to ask me to leave? But you see, we need an arbiter. We need a government. We need a supra authority that can say, hey, you don't say that. You can't say that. This person is, has all the rights to be here and to carry out legitimate business here. I think our problem then is bad governance, weak government. Irresponsible leaders, and really, I say it with all sense of responsibility.
Absolutely.
Irresponsible leaders or rulers that have failed to be leaders, and we must make those in authority, those who occupy positions in authority, we must make them recognize that this is when they need to demonstrate if they have what it takes to lead or not. It is in crisis moments like this, at times of crossroad, we're at a crossroad. If they are just exploitative or manipulative people who found themselves in power, this is when we know. If they are really leaders, this is when we know. If people are indeed, if these young people are shifting allegiance from them, as you say, towards these champions, ethnic champions, champions of ethnic sentiments, then we need to ask ourselves, what quality of people do we have occupying the corridors of power?
I think if you look, I think probably one problem we have is we have gotten so used to the kind of violence that took place as a result of Boko Haram that violence meant people dying, there's bombing, and we belittled and became insensitive to hate speech and these non-violent forms.
It's as if hate speech is, well, it's tolerable.
Exactly. We've seen worse. Exactly. That type of problem. And I think it is that belittling of the consequences at a time when, as they say, you can put a flame out when it is still on a matchstick.
Yes.
But once it has got fuel, you can't just blow it out.
No.
And the thing with hate speech is, while it is still hate speech, different actors can come and play a role. Traditional leaders, politicians, elders, religious leaders, all sorts of people can play a role in dousing those fires. But once you allow it to degenerate and become violent, law-breaking, then security come in, and unfortunately there's a lot of collateral damage in the way our security services have tried to handle violence.
The soldiers tell you that they are not civil force, that they are a military force, and so if they are called for any riot, they go and shoot and kill.
That's a pity. I mean, there's a code of ethics that should govern them. They are under a democracy that should govern them. Unfortunately, that is sometimes theory. The practice, that we need more training, we need a lot to be done to improve the conduct of our military and the quality of the services they give.
And when we do have a segment to discuss the religious dimensions of all this, and we will also discuss whether these soldiers and military forces, whether they are Christians and Muslims, who should have respect for life, who should have compassion, is there some drug you take when you hold a gun that you are no longer responsible in the way you use it?
Exactly. I think, and at the core of God consciousness that every faith teaches is that it's not just knowledge of God. Even Satan is knowledgeable about God. But God consciousness is that you are sufficiently aware of God's existence and presence, that awareness
influences everything.
Your thinking, your decision-making, actions, and decisions on right and wrong, that these should always be in line with justice, compassion, wisdom, and benefit. And I feel that some of this, say for example, the idea of having a deadline for Igbos to be evacuated, while I honestly feel that this was not put as a real proposal, the fact is, we have some silly people
who are waiting.
They are not just waiting. They've already started sharing information of identifying houses, jobs they are going to start taking, new vacancies that they will start. The discussion is moving away from just it's an idea to it's a good idea,
now plan.
It's a desirable idea, and then so how do we plan towards it? And that is becoming really worrisome as we share this, even if you consider it a joke.
Yes.
Because in reality, what we have seen in other countries is all you need is one nutcase, one person, not just to wait for 1st of October and start evacuation. Because it's not security or police that will do this evacuation. It's going to be hooligans. It's going to be jobless opportunists who are criminals.
Looters of shops.
Looters. The moment the looters come in, the people who said, let's fix a deadline, will the looters listen to anybody at that time? And when looting starts and killing starts, will we have reprisals in other parts of the country? What will stop it? Security will take a responsibility of coming in with curfews and the long and strong arm of the law. Who is going to be the target of security? It's not going to be people living in GRA. It's not going to be the people who are talking whether on the so-called Biafran or the Arewa side. God knows whether some of them will even still be in the country.
It won't be those who have dual citizenship and who keep moving between this country and elsewhere.
It will not be any rich person who is going to die. It's the same talaka, same poor, wretched life of an individual who's already been suffering, who is going to be the victim of this. And so when we say we want to start or tolerate this discussion, what happens if some nutcase decides I'm not even waiting for 1st of October? And does something? All we need is rumor, exaggeration, fake news, social media, and hatred. A few days ago there was news that there was Kaduna State, there was already violence. This was all fake news of violence that people were already Igbos were already being evacuated. A friend of mine, actually, he's an Igbo friend. He actually was in Kaduna, went round and had to reply to the network that was spreading this. I am an Igbo, I've been round.
There is no such thing.
However, the tension that was already rising, that made him have to go and spend his money and go around, that may not be available for people elsewhere.
Yeah.
And the moment you have somebody's blood on the ground, somebody would want to draw blood elsewhere. And it starts a chain reaction that ends with the reality, God forbid, that we only see in other countries and we don't know where it will stop, when it will stop. What we do know for sure, it's going to be a lose-lose and an embarrassment for anybody of faith to see this unfolding and sit down and just
and
watch
not do something.
And not do something.
They say if you do not change your course, you are bound to end up where you are headed.
Absolutely.
And what you are saying and what I am saying is that we are headed in the wrong direction. We are headed towards destruction. And if action is not taken, and who is to take the action? Who are those to take the action? We do have structures on the ground. They may be inadequate, but we do have structures on the ground. Yes, we need restructuring. We shall discuss that. Yes, we need justice. We shall discuss that. But there are people who are occupying positions now as local government councillors who are in touch with the grassroots. There are people who are occupying positions as chairmen of local governments, as House of Rep, as senators, as governors. There are people who are occupying positions as DPOs, divisional police officers, as state commissioners of police, and so on and so forth. These structures are to be made effective and effectual, so as to, I mean, they should, I think they should up their game, for example, to monitor what goes on social media. The police, for example, to monitor civil defense, to monitor what goes on social media. They shouldn't just wait on the road to catch people who don't have driver's license or whatever. That is important, but they should up their game. They should become IT, compliant and monitor the kind of posts that people put on.
I honestly feel we've reached a stage where the problem is bigger than government. The role of every sincere Nigerian, of every religious persuasion, of any level of influence, even if all you can do is forward a message, stop forwarding such messages, because you are just adding fuel to an existing fire. Anytime you see that type of information, speak against it. Why? Because it's against your faith for this to degenerate along that line.
We need to have another segment to discuss this. Nurudeen, I won't let you go with only one small segment. So we would break this session and then have another session to continue the discussion on Nigeria at a crossroads. Thanks, Nurudeen, for coming to the studio.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Cool.